Joining me now is Trevor Loudon. Well, by now, because it has gone viral, you guys have all seen the guest that Tucker had last night. She made a huge tidal wave of controversy. I think that's what Tucker thrives on. And we have to ask ourselves, who is this lady? I don't know. Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. I guess that's George's sister, we're told. But I had to do a little more research on her today. And as I did, I found out that she's tied to the Russian Orthodox. Oh, hang on now. Look at this. Evangelical leaders urge to hear Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos on plight of the Christians in the Holy Land. Okay. And I guess here she is. Russian Orthodox nun and sister of ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos. Okay, Russian Orthodox. Interesting. Logan, can you bring up on out of Sabotage, see if you can find this segment where I interviewed the former KGB officer? And he talks about the Russian Orthodox Church and how it's been used by the KGB. Can you see if you can find that clip real quick? I've interviewed that guy. He's in my documentary. Trevor's interviewed that guy. I want to talk about Trevor, what he thinks of this. Now look at this. Here's a website, Islamicity. I mean, this is the 13th of August. This was posted yesterday. So already the Islamists are using it. Christians in the crossfire, an urgent plea for the Holy Land. And it's by Agapia Stephanopoulos. Okay? And it's, look, life as a Christian in the Holy Land, Israel's apartheid system, Muslims and Christians in Palestine, a misrepresented relationship, and on and on and on. All the American Christian Zionism, supporting persecution, land theft and destruction of Christian sites, and on and on and on, which we've proven is all lie. I mean, she actually described Hamas as just a resistance movement trying to protect their people. Hamas, they carried out October 7th. And yet Tucker Carlson gave this woman a platform. Pro-Hamas. How could you say it's otherwise? But here, I have to ask the question. What role is there of this being more propaganda using the Russian Orthodox Church? Joining me now is Trevor Loudon. Trevor, I interviewed that former KGB officer out of Maryland. You've interviewed him. He won't talk anymore because I think he's afraid because some guys like him started, finding an early demise. So I called him for other interviews. He wouldn't talk anymore. He wouldn't talk for you anymore. But when he was talking, he said, look, the Russian Orthodox Church is greatly used by the KGB, now the FSB. Yeah. True?
Oh, well, 100%. It is completely an organ of the state. The current Russian Patriarch, Kirill, is a widely acknowledged, the Russians don't even deny this, he's a widely acknowledged KGB agent. And this woman, Agapia Stephanopoulos, was a part of the staff of the Russian Orthodox Bethany School for Girls, which sounds very noble, but it has direct relationships with the Russian Orthodox Patriarch, which is completely controlled by the KGB and various Palestinian government officials, Palestinian Authority, Ministry of Education, etc. It is a communist training school. And this woman is a hardcore leftist. Fancy that, a former advisor to Hillary Clinton, having a sister who's tied to a KGB front. Can you imagine how strange that is?
Yeah, how strange.
So, so look, this is what they call a psyop. So this woman is a complete leftist. She tells lie after lie after lie, and Tucker gives her a platform, which is his pattern. He hates Israel with a passion. And now the goal of the Russians and of Hamas is to drive a wedge between the American evangelical Christians and Israel. Because that's, evangelical Christians have supported Israel even better than most American Jews have. So to destroy Israel, you got to break that. You got to break that bond. And this kind of story, these bogus stories of Israeli persecution of Christian communities, which are completely bogus, is designed to do that, designed to get American Christians questioning American support for Israel. This is a Russian. This serves the purpose of Hamas and Russia. And Tucker Carlson has just perpetrated a massive fraud on the American people, one of many he has done in recent times.
And when I went to the website that tells about the history of this group, let's see, here it is. Let me find it again. I did have it here. I got so many buttons opened. But when I did have it open, and I'll find it here in just one second. Here it is. Bethany Community of the Resurrection, Orthodox School of Bethany, right?
Yep.
At the start of the 20th century, Bethany was just still a small village not far from Jerusalem. Here in Bethany, the Russian ecclesiastical mission purchased a modest piece of land close to the tomb of Lazarus with the intent to accommodate Orthodox pilgrims. Now, as I use the keyword Control F, I learned Russian. I put that in there. Russian language started in the 3rd grade. Wait a minute. We're going to teach Arabic, Russian, and English. Why? Why? I mean, I guess it's great to speak many languages, but this is clearly looks like a Russian school, Trevor.
It is. It is. It's a Russian school run by a KGB front. So this is a Russian influence operation, and this woman has just been allowed on Tucker Carlson to spout a whole series of lies to confuse American Christians. That's what this operation is, 100%.
Now, wasn't it true that Yasser Arafat got his training from the KGB, from the Soviets?
Yeah, he did. He was a KGB agent. He was the Palestine Liberation Army was set up by the KGB. And so I should make a point here. A lot of Americans don't understand Middle Eastern Christianity. Now, there are Christians amongst the so-called Palestinian population. But it's like when you say Christians, these people don't go out door knocking and holding rallies. They are ethnic Christians. They were brought up, their parents were Christians, their grandparents were Christians. In the Eastern Orthodox tradition, they don't proselytize, and they're very secular. They might go to church. Most of them would go to church maybe on Easter and Christmas. They are ethnic Christians. Just like, when you had the Catholics and the Protestants fighting in Northern Ireland, the Catholics who never went to church fighting the Protestants who never went to church. They were Marxists fighting the Royalists. This is, look, the many of the so-called Palestinian Christians are in the Communist Party. Most of them are secular. Many of them support Hamas. This is not Midwestern evangelical Christians. The head of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, George Habash, who did all the plane hijackings in the 1970s, who was an open Marxist-Leninist who swore to destroy Israel, was a Christian. He was brought up as a Greek Orthodox Christian. But what he did had nothing to do with Christianity. And I would say this is what Agapia Stephanopoulos is doing. She's fooling American Christians to think these so-called Palestinian Christians are actual, like believers, like Midwestern evangelicals. No, they're ethnic Christians, many of whom support Hamas. Many of them are in the Communist Party. Many of them are terrorists and guerrillas, but they're being used to pull a scam on American Christians to make them weaken their support for Israel.
And seems as though Tucker is setting up, in my opinion, the persecution of real conservative Bible-believing Christians. He's really always going after the Christian Zionists, or letting his guests go after the Christian Zionists. Christians that believe in the millennial reign of Christ. She said that's a false theology. It was made up. Well, what is the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. Where? On earth.
On earth as it is in heaven.
So what is that? Yeah. That's the millennial reign. So Jesus was teaching a false theology because he was teaching his disciples to pray for the return of the Lord. Pray for and look for the blessed hope and the establishment of the 1,000-year millennial kingdom that she says is not real, not in the Bible. She cites some counsel to say it's been proven wrong. Whatever. It's in the Bible, okay? And it seems as though the ones that really study the Bible seriously, obviously, tend to be dispensationalists. Whether people agree with dispensationalism or not, it just simply means, for those who maybe are wondering, God works in different ways at different times. His character never changes, but he works in different ways at different times. He worked in the Old Testament prophets. Then for 400 years, he's silent. Then we have the New Testament prophets and apostles, right? John the Baptist being the last of the Old Testament prophets. And then the start of the church. And now the Lord is working through this dispensation of the church age. Then at some point, if you believe in the pre-tribulation rapture or mid-trib, whatever you believe, the church is removed. You're in the tribulation. You're in a different dispensation. Lord's no longer working through the church, who is now perceived as being in heaven, according to reading of the book of Revelation, with the 24 elders around the throne, representing the church by the very things that the Lord himself said he would give the church if they were faithful: a crown, gold, white robes, and thrones. And voila, after the second and third chapter of Revelation, voila, you start seeing in the book the 24 elders with robes, white robes, thrones, crown of gold. I think that represents the church. And then there's no church mentioned until you get into around chapter 19 and the marriage supper of the Lamb, which I think takes place in heaven. Then the return of the Lord, Revelation 19, and then Armageddon, Revelation 19. So where was the church from chapter 3 to chapter 19? Well, we're in a different dispensation, and now you got not the Lord working through the church, because the church is not here. You got the Lord working through many things, including Jewish evangelists who come to use Messiah, but two prophets that appear, which I think is Elijah and Moses, and you got angels flying across the sky, right? Today it's the church. Go ye therefore into the world and preach the gospel. The church goes out. We preach, right? We teach, make disciples. The church is gone, and now the Lord's using angels flying across the sky. He's working in a different way, in a different dispensation, but his character never changes. The other thing about dispensationalism is they believe that God has a plan for the Jewish people, the Jewish state. I should say the Jewish people, not necessarily the state, the government of Israel, but the Jewish people spread all over the world. And then they would come back together, the dry bones in Ezekiel. And that happened in 1948. And so the Lord's going to use the Jewish people. And this is really... Another part of dispensationalism is we study the Bible in context, verse by verse, using hermeneutics, going back to use Scripture to confirm Scripture, Scripture to interpret Scripture. Now, if you go after, Trevor, those kind of people, Christian Zionists, dispensationalists, you are going after some of the most Berean of all Christians, the most serious, studied, committed Christians you'll find on the planet. These people are so serious, they take that study of the Bible to a scientific level. Seriously, literally. And that's who it seems those Tucker, in my opinion, is helping set up to create a hatred toward those people.
Look, 100%, because the Christian Zionists are very allied to the Christian nationalists, you see, which are one step away from Nazis. This is the Jews are under attack right now, but it's coming for the Christians. And this is being set up, that the the traditional the real American Christian, the backbone of real Midwestern American Christianity, who supports Israel, who has the debates that you have just mentioned, takes the faith very seriously. These are completely antithetical to what you call the KGB-controlled Russian Church, Orthodox Church, or the Hamas-influenced Palestinian churches. There's night and day. They call themselves Christian, but they're completely different. And these, so the goal of the left is basically to destroy what we would, the kind of Christianity you've just described. They don't mind a Christianity that does what the state tells it, like it does in Russia or it does in Palestine, or as a propaganda wing for Hamas. But real American Christians who support Israel, support the Constitution, believe America has a special place in history, and take their Christianity seriously. This is a whole different thing we're talking about here.
And so let me throw this in here real quick. So before we run it, because I know you got a hard break. Here's this lady claiming that this woman, Stephanopoulos, is now with the New York GOCK, which I guess would stand for the Greek Orthodox Church, and one of the faithful who chose not to join the Moscow patriarch.
Yeah, now that was a bit surprising to me, because she was with a church that did support the Moscow Patriarchy, was under the control of the Moscow Patriarchy, and now she isn't. So I don't know the significance of that. But she is still echoing the talking points that Moscow would want to be, want to talk about. You got to understand, Hamas calls Russia their best friend.
Say that again. Again.
The leadership of Hamas calls Russia and Putin their best friend, their best ally in the world. A lot of people don't understand that. They think Hamas is an independent actor. Hamas works for Russia. Russia trained many of the Hamas guerrillas who attacked Israel on October the 7th. So this is very consistent. The Russians have two main goals: to destroy Israel, destroy the United States. Divide Israel and the United States by telling American Christians that Israelis are persecuting Christians in so-called Palestine. That is driving the wedge. Just as Tucker says things like Zelensky is persecuting Ukrainian Christians, which is a complete 100% bald-faced lie to stop any American support for Ukraine. It's exactly the same principle. It's driving wedges.
And what motivates Tucker? Is he deep state? Reportedly his dad with the CIA. Reportedly Tucker at one point wanted to be in the CIA. Apparently didn't get accepted. I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't know. What is this dude's goal?
I think Russia is. I think Tucker's fallen for the Russian propaganda narrative that the Russian Orthodox Church is going to save the world from George Soros and the Muslim hordes, even though they are backing George Soros and the Muslim hordes.
Well, he just let a lady sit there and tell us how great Hamas was.
I know. Look, Tucker Carlson has all his guests virtually are all either pro-Russian or anti-Israel. I can give a whole list of them, from Daryl Cooper to Alexander Dugan to Glenn Greenwald to Jackson Hinkle, the communist, Dennis Kucinich, Dakota Lilly, Tara Reid, Stephen Cohen, Omali Ishitala, Max Blumenthal, Vadim Novinsky, all Russian propagandists, virtually all anti-Israel. That's the only guests that Tucker tends to have these days. He has got a very deep agenda. It's not pro-American, and it's very, very anti-Israel.
Well, the question is, who's funding him? Because isn't he destroying what was his natural base at one point in his career?
Yeah, well, it is, but I think he's probably got enough money now, and what the Russians do and the Iranians do, they will direct a whole bunch of followers and bots to your website, which drives up your views, which drives up your revenue. That's how they pay their friendly commentators in the West. That's how they do it. So, look, I think Tucker is very ideologically driven. He really does not like Israel at all. He had Daryl Cooper on, the so-called historian, who told us that Hitler was the good guy in World War II and Churchill was the bad guy. You know, Tucker has got some very, very screwed up views, and he consistently promotes this kind of stuff.
I know I got to let you go. Listen to this. I think this is Mother Acapia from 2002. Listen to this. Let me plug it in there, House. Here we go.
What about just the whole issue that the Israeli military puts forward, even in talking about Jenin, saying it's the home of most of the suicide bombers, that they are doing this for self-defense?
Well, I think that it's a little bit illogical. In going after suicide bombers, what creates the suicide bombers? The problem is the occupation and the whole injustice in the situation here. It's not going to be destroyed by destroying even or killing 100 or 1,000 men in each Palestinian town, if that's what they intend to do during this current invasion. What has to be done is made a constructive move towards peace and giving a fair settlement to the Palestinians to a portion of the land here. That will do away with any growing of bombers here.
So if we get this is how you could end the suicide bombers.
This is a complete lie. Surrender to the radicals. They won't bomb you and kill you anymore. Well, they will. Look, she has been a pro-Hamas propagandist for 20 years. That is what she is. And she comes from she was working for an organization with direct ties to the Moscow Patriarchy, which is completely controlled by the KGB. And Tucker Carlson, the great conservative, is platforming her and people like her on a daily basis. That's what we should all be looking at here.
Absolutely. TrevorLoudon.com. TrevorLoudon.com. Always, Trevor, thank you for being here.
Always a pleasure, Brandon. Thanks so much.
And let me go to this clip where I interviewed this former KGB officer who came to live in America, warning about the Russian Orthodox Church being used. Watch and listen to this.
Joining me on the line now is Konstantin Preobrezhensky. He is a former KGB member, a member of the KGB. He lives here in America, and he is trying to warn Americans about the KGB. And he's joining us today. Sir, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, tell me your story. It's quite fascinating, and I know my audience wants to hear it.
In 1991, I left KGB and became its harshest critics. It has deceived Russians, saying that we have abandoned communism, we have allowed religion, so it's just the same as the Imperial Russia, though in fact Russia is still devoted to communism, still Red Banner is in Russia, still the corpse of Lenin, the Communist Party leader and founder of the Soviet Union, is glorified and worshipped on the Red Square. So just a lot of Russian Americans want to deceive themselves by a falsehood that Russia returned to the imperial period, which is not so at all. They only concealed, only hid their communism. What is the main symbol? There are no free business in Russia. The business is controlled by the government. And what is government capitalism? It is socialism. Lenin, the founder of the Soviet Union, wrote that socialism is government capitalism, just what we see now in Russia.
Government capitalism. Well, isn't that interesting? Because a lot of the radicals over here are pushing for what they call welfare capitalism, a welfare state capitalism, the merging of big government and big business. I mean, America is really going right down the path of the former Soviet Union. I mean, surely
yes.
You can see that, can you?
Yes, it's a great mistake because the government, because interference of the government into the private business brings nothing but corruption. We see it on the Russian example. And secondly, the socialism or government capitalism inevitably brings the Gulag, brings the massive repressions which the Soviet Union has suffered under Stalin. KGB is a child of socialism. Now it has penetrated into America. And I want America very much to become very sober about Russia.
In this next clip, Konstantin warns that Putin is working within America to create chaos and to bring America down to a second-rate nation, to weaken America internally.
The target of KGB intelligence here is aimed mostly at undermining America. Putin's aim is to lower America down to the level of the secondary country.
So lower America down and undermine America.
Yes. It is the thing which Putin understands very well.
Listen as Konstantin describes how the government-controlled Russian media regularly reminds Russians that America is the enemy of Russia, and America's enemies are Russia's friends.
In Russia, America has been openly named the main enemy. Sometimes it causes irritation here in America. Americans don't want to believe it. It's not surprising. When you take any Russian magazine or just listen to Russian TV inside Russia, you will see that they are openly naming America their main enemy. But Americans don't know it. American media does not write about it so much. For example, Russian media calls North Korea a friendly country. They say North Korea is our friend. Americans don't know it either. They're still sure that Russia and America are in the same position about North Korea.
So what you're saying here, just to recap again, because of your beautiful Russian accent, I want to make sure that our people heard that. You just said that the Russian television in Russia clearly states that America is the enemy. They also state that North Korea is their friend, and most Americans don't know this.
Yes, that's true.
All right, guys, that's from my documentary, Siege. It's like 6.5 hours or something long, Siege. And you can watch the whole thing absolutely free of charge if you're a member of the Vault. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. Siege, Sabotage, Brainwashed America. So many of my documentaries and my books as ebooks and so much more. 35 years of my radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, and so much more right there. Conference DVDs from the Worldview weekends from years gone by. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. Now don't you want to watch the entire documentary? Well, you can if you're a member. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. You know what else? If you have a year membership, you're going to be able to live stream our entire Friday night, all day Saturday of our fall conference, October 3rd and 4th. You don't want to miss it. If you can't be here in person, which is way better, so you can go up and talk to the speakers and fellowship with like-minded Americans and Christians and patriots. But if you can't be here, you can live stream it. But you have to have a year membership. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. We'll be right back with Annie Cyrus right after this.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline, as it happens,